Futera presents Soccer Cards and Chill.
Hello there, welcome back to Soccer Cards and Chill. I'm Adam Partington. That right in front of me on the other side of the screen is Mr. Mark Watson.
Hey off, Adam Partington.
I knew it was coming.
It was always going to come, mate. Always going to come.
Yeah. Okay, so how you doing?
I'm not doing bad. Before we start, mate, can we just quickly talk about my mate and your mate? Andy Carroll scored an absolute screamer at the weekend, mate. Is it the weekend?
Yeah.
There he is. There he is. And his man bum scored it. Did you see his goal?
I haven't seen it. No.
Classic
was this
Andy
a consolation goal for Newcastle? Was it?
Yeah, it was. First goal for Newcastle, I think, in however long he left them. It must be about 10 years since he left Newcastle.
Is it really?
It must be.
It's time back.
Yeah, since he come back. But it was a bit of a screaming volley, sort of. It knocked it down into the floor and went in. It was no overhead kick against Crystal Palace, but it was pretty special anyway. I like Andy Carroll, not just because of your obsession by having statues of him around the house, but just a bit of a fan of Andy Carroll. Always liked him, mate.
The viewers may have noticed there that I was a little bit more coy than I'd normally be when I start a show. The listeners / viewers, and that's because your team beat my team at the weekend.
Yes, I wasn't.
Which they deserved, Mark. No, you were going to mention it. They deserved it. West Ham deserved it. You were. It was an archetypal, I think, Moyes-esque performance. Away aside that, let's not beat around the bush. Everton have got a better team now, a better 11, a better squad. But I think, you were playing away at our place, and that's never easy, especially the run that we've been on, which has been relatively good. I was a little bit disappointed, but I've got a lot of time for Moyes. He did a job on us.
Large dose of irony to it that David Moyes comes to Everton against Ancelotti, who's probably one of the greatest managers in history, and basically out tactics him. I would say that it was almost perfect. Everything about it was almost perfect, from the way that he set up at the start to bring in Antonio on at half time because he could only play 45 minutes. It just felt like he knew exactly what he was doing, and when they scored at the end, it was payback. I've got to admit something, Cads. So I got to, obviously games are on very late here. So I got to 84 minutes, at which point my eyes started dropping. And I felt to myself, let it go, Mark, because we're not going to score. That's it. And at 84 minutes, I fell asleep. And Souček scored at 86. So I missed the goal. And I still haven't seen it. I actually haven't seen the goal.
When did you realise that you'd won them? Was it in the morning, or did you wait?
Yeah, I woke up at some ridiculous time. It was like 5:30 a.m. First thing I did was quickly have a little look at my phone and saw that I missed the goal. So
that was a nice shock then for you, wasn't it?
It was. I always feel that if we score when I'm not watching, it was because I wasn't watching. Something in my ego tells me it's because of me, whether we win or lose.
It's because of you. Yeah. Well, we all do that. I do it when I'm at the match. I'm like, if I go to the toilet now, we will score. And, it does happen from time to time. And then you think it's me. It's all me. You say it's an ego trip, isn't it? I think there's an extra layer of irony as well to the result. The fact that Moyes has brought teams to Goodison in the past against managers like Sam Allardyce, Marco Silva, and others, as West Ham manager, and not managed to win the game. And he brings his side to probably the best Everton side that he's faced since he left Everton, and the best manager that he will have faced, and got the result. So fair play to him. You're doing okay, aren't you?
Yeah, no, it's we're looking all right, and but you are as well. This is a really good, probably since we've known each other, which is 10 or 11 years now. This is the best season to be a West Ham or an Everton fan, which is quite fun, isn't it? We're not calling each other up and sort of taking the mickey out of each other on this one. It's pretty easy being a West Ham or an Everton fan at the moment.
Which is not something that's ever been said in the entirety of human history at the same time. It's a good time to be a West Ham fan and an Everton fan. That's not something that people have said very often.
It's we're normally, when we do these podcasts, it's either at the weekends or it's at night and there's no one else around. But I've got a full office here, so if you hear noises in the background is because people are working, basically. But just literally before I came on here, we were just having a discussion about Declan Rice, with me stating that he was without doubt the best midfielder in the world right now. I haven't quite been
one for hyperbole, have you?
I haven't quite been forgiven for that one in the office at the moment, and I think if the noises that you hear in the background are probably still people laughing at me. Fair play. It was. I still stand by it, and I think he is the best midfielder in the world ever.
Can Rice still be considered a rookie?
No, because he's played for 3 seasons now, 4 seasons. So that takes his rookie standing out, but he hasn't ever featured on any Futera card. Just going to throw that one out there. So maybe that's a player that should be, as he is. But what's quite strange, 1 second, live, this is the first time this has happened. Raya is about to tell me that I'm wrong.
You're wrong.
Raya just told me that I am wrong. Raya, do you want to come over, Raya, and just explain to the viewers why I'm wrong? Come over, Raya. Come over and explain that. So I'm just about to be told that I am wrong. And Raya, please jump in.
He was on no!
Last year's rookies.
I put him in there.
So he was on last year's rookie. So I know.
So wait, guys, listening and watching this. Mark Watson, the creative director of Futera, a massive West Ham fan, wasn't aware that Declan Rice was on our last year. Brilliant. The best midfielder in the world. This is better than when we identified that I've got a statue of Andy Carroll in my house.
I'm giving up. I'm off.
So that's brilliant. We will move on from this one, I think, Mark. I meant
Souček. We've never brought out a card of Souček. That's what I meant. Definitely, that's it. That was
Souček and Declan Rice. That's an easy mistake to make.
100%.
Look, guys, we've got a brilliant conversation coming up with Steve from the Football Stop. Steve was a brilliant guy. Again, I say this about every guest, and I genuinely mean it. Everybody that we've had on the pod so far has been brilliant. Really enjoyed speaking to him. Again, it's helped me with my education in this new universe that I now live in. So we're going to play that interview. Then Mark and I are going to come back, and we're going to have a little bit of a chat about Mark's favourite ever card of all time, which isn't going to be evidently the Declan Rice rookie that he put in the last set and forgot about. So stay tuned for this. Here's Steve from the Football Stop, and we'll see you again after. Hello there. Welcome back to Soccer Cards and Chill. I am with Steve from the Football Stop. Steve, how are you?
I'm very, very well, thank you. How are you?
Good. Quite close to Christmas now. You all set for the big day?
Just about. It makes a change from rushing around in the shops. I'm usually very last minute, standard bloke, I imagine. So it's been quite nice this year to get all the shopping done online. So I think I'm ready. Yeah.
I think more people have probably done that this year with like everything that's going on. I think men have probably just done it last minute online. They've just the last minute shopping.
Yeah, get them right. Exactly.
No, it's I've tried to get all mine sorted as early as one can, but still though, I'm still getting in emails from these different companies saying we're having issues getting our stuff to you. It's going to be in the new year or whatever. So I might just have to stagger it a little bit this year with the one that they're giving out the presents. I'm sure that'll go down well. So yeah, thank you for coming on to Soccer Cards and Chill, Steve. I know you're really active actually in the space. Your channel on YouTube, you put out a lot of content. Do you have much time to do anything else?
No, not all. So funny enough, it's kind of filled a gap. So obviously I work full time. I've been doing a lot of academic studies as well, and then thankfully they ended just as I started getting into making content. So it's filled a gap quite nicely and given me something new to learn, to be honest, because it's something I had no idea. If someone had said to me 12 months ago, you'll be making YouTube videos, podcasts, and have this channel, I'd be like, wow, okay.
Oh, so it was a thing that was kind of instinctive then. You didn't plan to go in this direction. What kind of inspired you to start doing this stuff then?
What, to start the channel?
Yeah.
I think initially it was just going to be about sharing kind of the cards I was collecting and buying, just as kind of like a visual thing, which obviously you can tell on Instagram in particular. people really appreciate that. They enjoy seeing other people's collections develop. And then I just became aware of the fact that there was very few people in the space at the time doing it. Obviously, it's a completely different picture now. And the information that was out there, I didn't necessarily agree with, in all honesty with you, or felt that I had something I could add to it, just from kind of a love of football over the years.
Is this controversial point? I've just put a video out this morning. Actually, I cut down a segment of our conversation with Jamie. Jamie Salt, the second episode of Soccer Cards and Chill, and Jamie was talking about some of the things that are being said by people who are putting out content in the United States, who are traditionally like baseball collectors, and collect American football cards. And now they're talking about soccer, but maybe they're not as educated on soccer. They haven't watched football for as long, and they're saying things. They're telling people to buy certain cards, and maybe the information isn't quite correct. Is that what you're alluding to
there? In some respects, I think, yeah. But I mean, even before we get to the cards and kind of talking about which, if you want to go down the line of telling people what cards to buy, it's certainly not the line I take. But even before that, I think it's about understanding the game, about understanding the way the leagues, the competitions work, the transfer windows, and how quickly things can change in football, in soccer, in comparison to other sports, perhaps. I mean, I'm not a basketball or baseball expert, so I can't say. But in football, I certainly know that player can be in a team, obviously, 1 minute and out of a team the next minute, irrespective of whether you are a big name or not. If you're not performing, and that has a big impact. And I think, like, I was hearing conversations about kind of like Mbappe. Typically it was Mbappe at the time, that's all I was hearing, Mbappe, PSG, and then talking about the league he's in. And I was like, well, actually the content's not right, because the depth of information, the knowledge of information around the French league wasn't there. There wasn't an understanding of where that fit within the European competitions, and how was French league different to Bundesliga, Serie A, and the Premiership, for example, in terms of the level of competition within their leagues, and therefore the performance levels that the players were reaching. And that's something that I suppose I've always been quite vocal about, is that it's all well and good saying a player's performing in that league, but how does that compare to players performing in another league in Europe? That kind of thing.
So you're obviously talking about this now from the investor's perspective, because like you wouldn't probably collect cards of a sport if you weren't into that sport, if you think about like a traditional kind of collector. So do you think, like, if you were approaching the hobby from an investor standpoint, which plenty of people do, and that's not, I know it can be sometimes a little bit of a sore point for people who are traditional collectors, that they think that's people entering this space, to purely talk, to enter it to make some cash. But do you think, right, that it's, or okay, let me rephrase this question. How important is it, if you're going to spend money on soccer cards to look to make a profit on them in the future, let's say, that you actually have to know about the game of soccer and be a soccer/football fan?
I'd say it's an essential for me. Like, without that understanding of the game, and I just think you're opening yourself up to so many mistakes. I just think if you don't understand how the leagues, like I said, how the leagues work, for me, like, and I know Jamie touched on this, if you are buying players that have no realistic chance of going to the major international tournaments and performing at the highest level in terms of the Champions League, for example, then straight away you're kind of putting yourself on the back foot. And that's not to say you can't buy a player's card that won't go up in value if they don't get into the Champions League or play at the World Cup, but it's definitely not going to, the chances of you buying a card that's going to reach the kind of like higher echelons in the hobby are reduced, in my opinion. So having an understanding of, for example, the fact that Haaland is Norwegian and Norway are not going to make the European Championships, and how is that going to impact on that particular player's card, it is quite important, in my opinion. Like, for me, using that example, Haaland, as amazing as he is and is high in the hobby, probably won't reach the levels that Ronaldo and Messi has done, because he's not going to feature in those big European Championships and World Cup tournaments in the next few years at least.
Yeah, Jamie had like a criteria where he said they need to either have won a Ballon d'Or, won a Champions League, or won a World Cup, or be in the, you know, with a chance of doing those things to actually reach those heights. Do you agree with that criteria?
Yeah, like when I listen, to be honest, when I listened to the video, it's not something that I'd given much thought to previously. And actually, I thought it was quite a good criteria, almost like a checklist. That if you were just going to invest in a small portfolio, I suppose, rather than having a wider kind of like portfolio, then using that kind of checklist would actually be a really good approach. So yeah, definitely, I'd go along with that. I think it's a really good thinking.
How are you currently navigating this boom then that we're going through at the moment?
Strategically and with great caution, to be honest with you.
Right.
It's not the same market that it was even 3 months ago. It's changed so much. Like three to 6 months ago, you could buy almost any product and it was going up in value, like almost anything. And we've just seen a big drop since probably August, September time, around the Champions League. I think when Mbappe failed to perform for PSG in the Champions League, a lot of people lost a lot of money. And there's kind of been this reaction as to say, like, oh, actually, it's not all plain sailing. It's not that simple. So definitely with caution. I think I'm still going in on the cheaper end in terms of like rookies. If I can pick up rookies, that's where I tend to focus. But I've also kind of narrowed in now on players I think will be culturally significant in the long term and relevant in the long term. So basically, like Jamie talked about, to be honest with you, those players that I feel that are going to be in people's thoughts over the next decade, or going to be winning major competitions, Ballon d'Ors and things like that, I suppose. And then as a bolt on, there's those I just enjoy.
I think you've of course, just cards that you want to collect. Let's not forget that. I think actually there's a fourth criteria, and it's something that Gary Vee speaks about a lot. You've just mentioned it there as well. When I've listened to like Gary Vee's sports card videos, watched Gary Vee's sports cards videos, he actually talks about like the cultural impact of certain players. And I think that's probably another factor as well. You know, how do they present themselves off the pitch? Are they actually a person that people like? Do they have a lot of character? So yesterday I did a podcast. It's not out yet, but I'll give the listeners a little snapshot. Me and Mitch from Aldian Cards were talking. I know that you know Mitch. I think you may have had him on the show. I see him commenting on the.
Yeah, I'm good friends with Mitch. This is the positive about the hobby, is like I've actually made like a good friendship there with Mitch.
He's a great guy. I really enjoyed speaking to him. A little bit of a shame for him that he's a Fulham fan, and that's probably. But anyway, I'm an Evertonian, so while things are going well at the moment, they'll probably go drastically wrong for us at some point. But he mentioned this, and we were talking about Luka Modric, and we were like, he's like ticks a lot of these boxes. I don't think he's won a Ballon d'Or, but he's got to a World Cup final and he's won a Champions League. But his card values don't really command that much. You know what I mean? They're not, or like as a card, it's not incredibly sought after. I don't think anyway.
Yeah.
So I think there's got to be that X factor almost with a player as well. And Mbappe has that obviously, and I think someone who is intriguing me at the moment is Marcus Rashford, because of the work that he's doing off the pitch. Plays for Man United.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, you know they're not the club they used to be in terms of how they perform on the pitch, but there's still a massive pull, right? So I think there's something there, isn't there, with regards to the cultural element of a player.
Absolutely. I think Rashford is almost like top of my list at the moment for that exact reason. Politically in the UK, obviously, he's making huge waves, so he's got significance in that respect. Kids growing up now are hearing about how he's just in the news for so many different reasons other than just football. I just think that creates so much more interest in a player. That name's more likely to remain relevant for years to come. And I suppose what you don't want is to, if you're in it for the long haul, then you don't want to be buying things whereby a player's just goes off, disappears off the face of the earth the minute they retire. And I think with Rashford, it's starting to become almost a guarantee that once he retires from football, and I know he's obviously got a long time yet, he'll still be in the headlines for whatever reason, because he does so much off the pitch. Modric is a great example of where this kind of like significance doesn't apply. And I think he definitely got runner-up Ballon d'Or.
He was close, wasn't he? Yeah, I wonder whether, I can't remember if Mitch said he actually did. I can't remember.
He might have won it. I think he might be the one player that split Ronaldo and Messi. But again, it's just, you talked a little bit about Mbappe there, and like, for want of a better word, it's that like sexiness. Which sounds weird in a hobby which is predominantly male, but it is like that sexiness. Is that player going to be culturally relevant? Are they going to be on the front cover of FIFA in the next few years? Are they going to be on your magazine covers? And are they going to be promoting your Rolexes on TV and stuff like that? And I think all these factors come together, as well as what's going on the pitch, to garner interest, I suppose. And Modric sadly doesn't have that.
No, he doesn't. He doesn't, with respect to him. He just doesn't. It's a thing. And trading card collectors are still humans, and they're still attracted to the same things and inspired by the same things as anybody else, right? So it's no different. It's the same in music. You have musicians who are incredibly talented musicians, but they just don't maybe have that away from the microphone, or they're not the best performers. It's they might be very good at. So Modric, if we use the musician analogy, right, he's got a great voice, but he's probably not. He wouldn't be the best on stage. He might not say the most. He might not be the most articulate in front of the press. He might not be the most inspiring on social media.
Yeah, no? I'm chuckling to myself because I just thought of an example where with Modric, I don't know if you ever heard it with the commentary. So he's playing for Real Madrid. I can't think who the commentator is, and the game's going on, and they're like, this Real Madrid team's like really struggling at the moment. Obviously, Modric has been injured over the last few weeks, so they'll be hoping that he makes an appearance back in the team shortly. And it goes like, goes back to his normal commentary, and he's like, Ramos on the ball, Casemiro, lovely ball, Modric. So he's actually on the pitch.
So he's just
Modric is on the pitch of the game he's commentating on.
Yeah. Well, you'd never not realise that Cristiano Ronaldo wasn't on the
pitch. Exactly.
Always know he was on the pitch. What types of cards are you drawn to?
A real mix. Too many. Spend most of my salary on it, I think. Definitely rookies, I'd say. Rookies for me are both. For a few reasons, really. I suppose rookies because there's the interest personally. I just like having the first appearance of a player, just for whatever reason. I just enjoy that. But also in terms of like, just the way the market works, it seems to me that the market just really hones in on this idea of a rookie. Obviously, that's predominantly comes from America, but it's gained traction in Europe amongst modern collectors, younger collectors anyway. And I think for that reason, I definitely focus in on rookies. Similar to what Jamie said, the autos interest me, but more so if it's a retired player or an older card. I'm not that interested in getting hold of an auto card of a player that's perhaps like 20 years old. So like a Rashford auto, I'd never chase it personally just because there's too many out there. It's too easy to get hold of things like that now. So I'd place more significance on the rookies and then the parallels as well. So cards that are distinctive because they're just less common, I suppose, like having that unique piece of artwork, I suppose. And that's something else. It's like, it is artwork, and that's an important factor for me as well. The actual aesthetics of the card is really important. So yeah, that parallel aspect.
It's interesting you said rookies. Everybody says rookies. I think I can understand that. I can't say too much, but at Futera here in the new year, we're going to be doing something quite. We're going to do something quite important with regards to the rookie space, the rookie space of the space, and I'm really excited by that because I think it's kind of intuitively I know why, and I think it's that element of, can I predict the next big thing? I mean, everyone likes to do that anyway. And, if I get this guy now at this price and I can see where his career goes, and that's kind of exciting. It's almost like when you put a bet on a player to score and then you root him to score. In a way, it's similar. It's just that kind of projecting into the future and trying to predict what's going to happen. So rookies they're cool. They are cool, because I imagine if you do, if you land on, and that's why when I see on Instagram when people have got like the first version of like a Ronaldo card or whatever, and he's in his Sporting Lisbon jersey, and I can see why there's that pull there. I really
definitely, yeah. So that's probably some of my favorites in my collection are kind of like the 90s players I watched as a kid. I've got like their first, for example. So sadly, I don't have Ronaldo, but I've got, for example, like Zidane, which is just amazing to see him in that can shirt, and just fantastic. I love having it in my collection just to kind of appreciate. Brilliant.
What's kind of cool as well is like you think, oh, people would have had this card at the time. And they would just have not, or a sticker, more in the case of our country, and they wouldn't have had any idea that like this kid was going to go on and be so special. I like that. Yeah, it is crazy. Yeah. It is crazy. It's like when I think back to, I'm an Evertonian, so as I said, so like when I first saw Rooney, I mean, I knew he was good, but I didn't know. And looking back now, it is cool to think, I saw him at that, and you just didn't know how his career was gonna map out. You kind of sensed it with him because he was just magic as a kid.
That goal at Arsenal kind of paved the way, didn't it?
Goal against Arsenal, but there's one that people kind of forget as well, and it was a couple of weeks after that. He'd scored already for Everton in the League Cup. That wasn't his first. I think it was the League Cup. That wasn't his first goal. His first senior goal. It was the first goal in the league, and obviously it was against Arsenal, and it kind of signed off David Seaman's career as well. Because he almost did him again. People forget that. So there was another bit, if you go back and watch the highlights of the game, and I think he hit the bar. He tried it again. He's just crazy, mate. The kid was for me, I think, like I don't think I loved him, absolutely loved him. And when he left for Man United that same week, I like broke up with my first girlfriend. I couldn't work out what I was more upset about. Wayne leaving for Old Trafford, or the fact that I got binned off by my first girlfriend. But and he scored a goal about a week after Arsenal, a couple of weeks after, against Leeds, right? And he just picks the ball up, turns, puts, I think Lucas Radeby or someone to just fall over. They're on their bum. He just goes past and slots into the bottom corner, and then he runs off to the Evertonians, and they're piling out of the away end. Just brilliant. I love it. Yeah. So anyway, having like a Wayne Rooney, like his initial kind of cards, it must be a great feeling. Hey, talking of lads that had potential, obviously Wayne's now at the back end of his career. But what about the current boys at the moment, or girls? Because ladies football is growing. Is there anybody that you're looking at thinking, they've got a lot of potential, that you'd advise, or that you'd maybe make a recommendation to people to look at? Or is there any players that you're excited about?
I'm kind of trying to go off the list of. I know I've watched Jamie's video, so I'm conscious that I don't want to just say the same names, because everyone's saying.
If they're your genuine picks as well, then don't
like I can't see past Haaland and Moukoko. Like I think they're both great picks, but Rashford obviously for the same reasons that we've spoken about already in terms of cultural relevance. And I've just been banging the drum about Rashford for ages now. I remember still when everybody was talking about Mbappe, I was putting podcasts out saying, look, Rashford's better than Mbappe, scoring goals on a more consistent basis, blah, blah, blah. And it's slowly starting to get some traction now. But the player that I've kind of spoken about a lot, that it actually hasn't gone very well for me, to be honest. It hasn't garnered for injury reasons, basically, but that's Gabriel Martinelli. I still think that guy is arguably the most talented young player in the Premiership. So for me, like, you can pick there's a few reasons why I think it's a really interesting one, Martinelli. So his rookie is a sticker from the Panini Football Collection from 2020, so the last season's one. And like when everyone else jumped on Mason Greenwood at the same time, it's the same collection. Like Greenwood obviously went and scored goals after goals and got released in multiple products. So you had him coming out in Panini Chronicles and 3 different cards, for example, and the kind of market became quite saturated. Gabriel Martinelli, on the other hand, got injured and therefore wasn't really released in any other products that year. So actually for his rookie year, you only have the Panini Football sticker, and I think it's Panini Adrenaline. which is the card. So for that reason, it's almost unlike a lot of other young players in that he has quite a small portfolio of cards and stickers available for his first year. Obviously, the downside is he's had a really bad injury. And again, like he came on yesterday, wasn't it? Was it last night? And went off at half time.
Yeah.
So there is like, that is something I'm worried about. Obviously, it's a pretty bad knee injury he had, and they can be kind of career defining injuries. But I just think when all the other players like Haaland, Moukoko, Rashford, not Moukoko necessarily, but the other two are quite high price points. Whereas Martinelli is almost like a really low risk opportunity to just pick them up at, I think you can get them on eBay on the other day now for £4 or £5 for his sticker. And I just think he's a really exciting prospect. Whether he'll ever be worth a great deal of money, who knows? But there's not many out there that have that talent, in my opinion, that you can pick up so cheap. So he's one that I've spoken about a lot. So I'll have him and Rashford are my kind of two picks.
Yeah, we've got a vested interest in Gabriel going on to Martinelli, going on to do some great things as well. With us being the official licensee of Arsenal in the new year, you know, you'll see a lot more products from us, and he'll be featuring heavily. So you know, and so yeah, we also share. I share that as well. You know, I want him to go on and be the player that I think he can be, because you know, in the future that'll mean that more people will be seeking our cards, and at this early stage in his career, for us to be, you know, publishing and releasing cards of his that are officially licensed by the product. You know, they've got the Arsenal crest on, and they'll be very nice cards as well, because I mean, if I do say myself, we do create nice cards here at Futera. I mean, I'm gonna have to say that as the marketing manager, but I genuinely believe it. So I'm really looking forward to seeing his cards, and I'm excited about that one, and I share that with you.
There's not many players that Jurgen Klopp comes out, and I think, was it Klopp defined him as like the talent of the century? Like that is, and I think Guardiola said a similar thing. So two arguably the greatest managers in the world at the moment have huge praise for this kid. So yeah, fingers crossed he can get over these injury problems and show people what he's got.
Yeah, there's Sacco as well. There's a couple of good lads at Arsenal that could go on to maybe make a dent. It all depends, I suppose, on how that club functions on the pitch.
That's the thing.
Yeah. I mean, to work with them, that, you know, they're a great club, but on the pitch at the moment they're having a couple of issues, obviously. So I personally hope that they stick with Arteta, because I think that, you know, it will work out, and it's a tough job. I mean, they've been on the pitch. They'd probably be the first to admit, hence why they've had to sack managers. You know, Emery didn't kind of work out at the back end of Wenger's tenure, didn't exactly go in the right direction. So it's a tough job. It's a tough job for Mikel Arteta. Yeah. And the fan base there is so. I mean, we all know about Arsenal Fan TV, and they're very vocal. And in this modern world, I'd say that if there's one group of fans that can impact the direction of their club, it's their fan base now. Like Arsenal Fan TV has stolen a march on every other club. I mean, I used to do the front Grand Old Team, which is one of Everton's biggest fan channels. We used to do interviews outside the stadium and stuff, and talk to players and that. But we, you know, even our the other big Everton fan site, Toffee TV, we had no sway over what the club did. But those guys seem to, because they capture so much attention. So it's a really tough gig, I think, the Arsenal job. What do you think, Steve, will be the first $1 million soccer card? It's a question I've asked some of the other guests.
Gabriel Martinelli.
Gabriel Martinelli's Futera card that will be really 2021.
I think it's going to be there'll be a lot of vintage people that are far more better positioned than me to talk about this. Based on like the most recent kind of auctions, I'd say it's going to be a Pele, I think. Probably either one of the Alifas, so that's 1958 Alifa Bologet, or the Ballas. So that's a lot rare.
Tell the collectors, what the people listening, what's that? Sorry.
So I don't know. I don't know it as in depth for some people. So the Alifa is a 1958. That's like the one it's a an image of Pele, portrait shot in blue, and in PSA they're around about 50, 60-ish graded, I think. Whereas there's a lot of kind of controversy over I think it's Ballas Equip. There's Ballas Equip, I think it's called.
So that's the brand.
It was a Brazilian magazine or Brazilian collection. But the reason it's got potential is because there's only one graded at PSA at the moment. I think it's graded like a 1.5. So they're just so hard to get. But I think as well it predates the Alifa. So potentially that Ballas could be the first million. I think it's between them two. But I think, would you rather have it? It all comes down to the date. So if the Ballas it is dated 1957, which I think it is, it predates the Alifa from 1958 and would be classed his rookie. And I think that could drive the price a lot higher.
Yeah.
But again, it's a really kind of controversial topic, I think, within the hobby, and particularly among people that go very hard on their vintage research. Like I say, they'd be able to talk in much more depth about the differences and the arguments for or against the Alifa or Ballas. So if you're watching this and thinking I've got it wrong, please don't shoot me down straight away.
But do leave a comment, because depending on what you do, and if you've got your own channel or whatever, I'd be more than happy to speak to somebody who knows a little bit more about that kind of stuff, because I'd certainly need to improve my knowledge there as well. So yeah, okay, that's interesting. I mean, a lot of the guys are saying the same thing, because I was like, when I was coming into this, maybe in my naivety, I was thinking surely it's going to be a Messi or a Ronaldo card or whatever, but a lot of people seem to, which I understand, seem to say the older guys, the classic stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it might well be, but I just think it comes down to that scarcity aspect of it, isn't it? And when you compare the numbers for Messi, Ronaldo in comparison to Pele, they don't really come close. They're too easy to get hold of. So yeah, I think that the Pelés are going to be really interesting. Obviously, I'm really interested to see what will happen with the kind of like really kind of old cigarette cards as well, like Billy Meredith's and things like that. They're super rare cards. Obviously, you've got like Arthur Wharton, for example, the Baines cards from 100 years old, like over 100 years old. So there's an argument you could make for any one of those to be the first £1 million card, just based on the scarcity. It's just about finding the right collector or investor, isn't it? Who's willing to pay it.
Well, yeah, it is. I just wonder whether or not. So I saw Rob Kardashian purchase like I think it was a Michael Jordan rookie or whatever, and he paid a stupid amount of money for it. Forgive me if that's wrong and you're listening. It was another card. But I just wonder whether or not, like, as the hobby, if it continues to go in the direction it's going, then it will get more culturally significant. And it only takes, a couple of maybe big YouTubers to start talking about soccer cards. I know they already do talk about trading cards and Pokemon. Logan Paul, I think, talks about Pokemon, and Gary Vee's talking about soccer cards now and sports cards. But I think the first one that really comes out and goes hard on soccer cards, which we might see as we get closer towards the World Cup. I just wonder whether or not, like, someone say, if there was a British version of a Rob Kardashian that came in, whether or not they'd actually just want to purchase like a Messi card, and they might have ended up paying over the odds for that. I don't know though. I suppose we are speculating, aren't we? I think. Go on. Sorry,
I think even then though, if you were, say, somebody was going to go into the market with a lot of money and buy the highest grade Messi, for example, you're still a long way off the £1 million mark, aren't we?
Yeah,
a long way off that,
at the moment for sure. And I think that scarcity thing. So actually, again, talking frankly about Futera, one thing that I have noticed, I've been back with the company now, as I said, 6-7 weeks, and I've been looking over the stuff that we've done previously. And one thing we've done actually really well here is we haven't historically done massive runs on cards. So I think that's just something like that. As a publisher, you need to kind of wrestle with, because the demand's out there now for your product, but you don't want to go too big in terms of your runs, because then you end up devaluing it, and there's and you're not providing as much value to your customers there. So that's actually a really tricky place to be in, I think, and we need to manage that. But in the past, we've kind of been like, right, okay, we're not going to do massive runs on our cards, so they hopefully will retain their value into the future, because there's not as many of them. Here's a good one, Steve, just to kind of wrap up, mate. If you were on my side of the fence. So I joke with the interviewees that I have, and I kind of say, if Futera had kicked me out on the street and they've given you the job because you've performed so well on this podcast, and they think, actually, why are we employing this Adam guy? Let's bring Steve in. He knows what he's doing. What would you kind of be doing as a publisher now? Doesn't have to be for Futera, it could be for any publisher, but what would you do in our shoes?
Focus heavily on the rookies because that's what sells.
Well, that's good because we're planning to do that.
Yeah. So I think I'd go hard on the rookies. I think obviously it's important that the secondary market is performing well, and a lot of people maybe don't think about that from a manufacturer's perspective. But if the secondary market's performing well, then your business is doing well at the other end, I suppose. So, but you also need to. There's a fine balance in that. I think I would probably, if I was at Futera, I would probably reduce autos, reduce memorabilia pieces, and focus more on increasing availability of product, but then adding refractors and things like that, numbered cards. Cheaper way of manufacturing them again, isn't it? And
when you say number, because we do number all of our cards. So what? Sorry, what?
Like the limited aspect. So having kind of variations of print, the same as Panini and Topps are doing now, variations of prints, so that you can increase distribution and get your brand out to more people, but then create that chase. I think the chase is the most important thing. That's what people enjoy. So I would do something that made it so you could get your product out to as many people, but got people really enthusiastic about the chase and having the potential to not spend too much money, but then have the potential to get a card that's worth a lot of money. So it creates this almost like a social movement, if you want, of people that get excited about one particular brand because there's almost this golden ticket.
I was thinking about that last night. I was actually thinking about like giving our hardcore collectors a name, like calling them like Futera-ites or something. Or so if you've got any suggestions for that, then obviously do let us know in the comment section. I really like that. Creating that community is important though, and that's obviously what we want to do here. It's what I certainly want to do here for sure. So great suggestions. Have you got a style of card that you like? Are you drawn to a style? Does a card have to look a certain way, in your opinion, Steve?
I think that's the other thing I would do, to be honest. Like, again, some companies have just started doing it, but the aesthetics are massive. So I like the Project 2020 from baseball with the kind of like unique artwork and things like that. I love them, and like I really hope that's something else that is brought into football, into soccer, just so that there's this like uniqueness in terms of artwork and things that you can actually display. So like something I've just started is this idea of having almost like a desk card or a shelf card, because it's like you spend this money on all this money on your cards or collections. Like if you just stick them in a drawer, like you're not actually enjoying them, irrespective of whether you just want to flip them or invest or whatever. So the more aesthetic cards, I suppose, are what I really like.
I'm smiling because that's another thing we're looking at.
Do you need an assistant?
No, you're spot on. Of course, we thought about that. The implementing artist acting again. I can't say too much. I have to be very careful. Else my director's listening, and she will. I will be out of a job. But no, it's something that we thought about. And then also, actually, I just want to pick you up on something because. So the whole displaying your cards, I get that, but isn't there the consideration there though that you are putting them in harm's way a little bit more? Like, because like you've got sunlight. I mean, I see Gary Vee has them behind him sometimes, and I think, is the sunlight on them, or am I overthinking it? You spill something on them? I mean,
yeah, maybe for some people that's. I mean. Sadly, there's nothing in my collection worth $70,000. So I think if it was a $70,000 card, I might think differently. But
and I've got a 2-year. If I had a collection of cards, I've got a 2-year-old. If I had a collection of cards lying around of value, I can imagine they would be drawn all over, scrunched up.
Yeah, no, it's a good point though. So I suppose don't leave your desk cards out too long in the sun is the advice there. And if you've got any 2-year-olds running around the house, then please maybe we've got a side venture here where we can come up with some kind of like card protection system whereby children can't come near our expensive cards.
I love it. We could do that, and it could set off an alarm or something. Stay away from the cards. I've got him back in the collection. This is your this is going to pay for you to go to university. Stay away. Yeah, I like it, mate. I like it. Hey, look, thanks for coming on the podcast. It's been great, Steve. Really enjoyed talking to you. Oh, I didn't find out though. I mean, I can sense that you're a Northerner. Who's your team?
So I'm a Sheffield Wednesday fan, sadly. So funny enough, when you were saying about Mitch being a Fulham fan and you being an Everton fan and having a hard time, I was sat here thinking,
you don't even know you're Fulham.
You've not got a clue, mate.
No, that's true. That's true. Do you know what? As a 90s kid, we're the same age. I remember the day Sheffield Wednesday at Goodison. I used to have a bit of a soft spot for you because I used to like your badge.
The owl,
yeah, the owl, and So, you live up in Sheffield, then, do you?
No, it's a weird one. So I'm from East Yorkshire originally, so I should be a Hull City fan. And I've spent most of my life in Leeds, which is where I am now. So should be a Leeds fan, but everyone hates Leeds, don't they?
Yeah.
So just through playing as a kid, I kind of got into going with friends to Hillsborough with a season ticket and just kind of went from there, really. And I actually started going when they dropped out of the Premiership.
Oh, really?
So my first year was when they went relegated, basically. So I've never seen them in the Premiership, really, which is a shame. A Championship, League One yo-yos, basically, aren't we? Just close.
Yeah, it would be nice to see them back in the Premier League. I'd say I've got kind of fond memories of them playing in the Premier League. Like those kind of clubs in the 90s, late 90s, Derby, Sheff Wednesday. I mean, even like Barnsley popped up for a little bit in the late 90s and stuff. You know, they're kind of cool. Well, but especially I'd say Derby and Sheff United, Sheff Wednesday. There's probably a couple of others as well where I always look at them in the Championship and I always think, they're still. I still see them as like Premier League clubs in my mind.
Not Nottingham Forest.
Notts Forest with the other one. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I was trying to think of the other one. And Notts Forest would be another one. Certainly, how big they are. So, look, it's been great speaking to you. Where can people find your stuff then?
So Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, YouTube, most platforms, I think, just at the football stop. So you find me there, and hopefully there's a bit of a variety. Try and do stuff for everyone. So whether you're an investor, whether you're a collector, whether you are new to the hobby or experience, hopefully there's something there you find interesting. And as always, my DMs are open. I really kind of promote this idea of community and being open to just conversations, whether you want to just talk about weekends, football or soccer, or actually have a genuine question about a particular item, then please get in touch. I'm always happy.
I do sense that with your stuff. As I said, you're putting out a lot of content at the moment, and you caught my attention with the reference to TikTok. We might have to have a separate conversation because I need to get us onto TikTok, and I've got absolutely no idea what I'm doing.
It's hard work, mate. It's hard work.
It's like it's not. We're too old already, Steve.
Yeah, I think we are. Yeah,
but I'll have to check you out on there to see what you're doing and maybe get some inspiration. So once again, thank you for coming on to the podcast, Steve. Have a lovely Christmas because we're recording this before Christmas, and all the best for 2021. And we will most definitely speak then as well again.
You too, mate. Thank you.
So welcome back to Soccer Cards and Chill. I'm Adam Parson. That's Mark Watson. We as I said before, we played that interview, Mark, that I did actually before Christmas. Now I did that on Christmas Eve. Look at me working on Christmas Eve.
Look at you.
I know. Dedicated to the cause. In fact, we did technically work a little bit on Christmas Day because I called you when I was on my little Christmas Day walk and we had a little chat about something and you told me not to talk about it because it was work. So there you go. That shows how dedicated.
Went into slow motion again.
I am. Did I?
Yeah, it was like the opening sequence to Baywatch for a second there. Just not as enjoyable.
That's debatable. That is debatable. So, Mark, Steve, is obviously contributing to this growing football scene now on YouTube. There's some guys out there creating great content. I know as well that you're actually a fan of Steve's. You watch a bit of his stuff. Is that right?
Yeah, I don't have huge amounts of time to sit and watch stuff on YouTube, but I try and sort of keep up to date with the latest sort of trading card and soccer card YouTubers. And it's really, I love the content that people are putting out. I'm really enjoying it. But yeah, I started watching Steve pretty much from when he launched. It came up on my sort of suggested videos. I just think the way that he presents is really good. Really easy to understand. Yeah, I've enjoyed a few videos. I haven't watched them all, but every time that something comes up, I've enjoyed it. I'm not the guy that subscribes, so I should subscribe to these channels so I can watch them when they come out. But yeah, I'm a bit of a fan. He does a really good job on it.
Do you agree with him on Rashford, his enthusiasm for Rashford moving forward, and actually, you know, these are going to be cards in the future that he thinks are going to be well sought after? Do you agree with him on Rashford, Mark?
Yeah, a little while back I made that shout sort of in the office. I think he's it's not just that he's a fantastic footballer, because he is, but he's really put himself out there just in the public domain as well, and he seems like just a great guy. And I think that all of that, his whole sort of persona, to me, is almost coming across that you've got like a almost modern day Beckham a little bit there, but it's a very different, like it's sort of like David Beckham for 2020 in the way that he's sort of transcended the sport a bit. Like everybody now knows who Marcus Rashford is. My mum would know who Marcus Rashford is, and she's not a football fan. I think just what he's doing away from football is sort of going to create a bit of a legacy for him. And like controversially, David Beckham, to me, probably wasn't as good a player as Rashford is, but because of what he did away from football and just his personality, etc., he became like, he transcended the sport. He became a superstar, and I've just got this feeling that Rashford could do the same. I'm a bit of a fan. I think he's a great player, but also I just like what he's doing, and I'm liking how he's doing it as well. So yeah, I think if that works towards trading cards, I think that he's a good shout at the moment. I also think he's going to go on to be a great player. So.
Yes, no doubt. He's an incredibly talented footballer, and I actually agree with you on Beckham. I think Beckham was a superb footballer, but I think in a way Beckham's like profile off the pitch propelled him maybe further than his footballing ability. That's not to take anything away from him, because he was a terrific footballer, but. So that's interesting that you agree with him on that. I kind of see it as well. I remember actually, when I first joined Futera, I was watching a Gary Vee video on sports cards, and he was talking to someone else about a baseball player or something. He mentioned like the cultural impact of the player, and I found that intriguing. It's not something that I'd thought of before. I kind of thought, well, people just collect cards because that, you know, again, this is my naivety, but people collect soccer cards because that, you know, that's the player that they want to collect, and they're thinking of it purely as a you know, they're good at football thing, but it's not just that, is it? So yeah, that's interesting. I did enjoy that conversation with Steve. One question I wanted to put to you, and I don't think we've spoken about this yet, is kind of what's your favorite card of all time, Mark? You know, what's a card that you've enjoyed working on personally, or other cards that you've seen?
You know what? There's a few, but there's a couple that stick in my head. One is the first card that I designed when I came back. So there was a little period where I wasn't at Futera. I've been at Futera for a long time, but then there was a little period where I wasn't. When I came back, sort of the world had changed a little bit in trading cards, and I came back to help launch the Futera World Football game, so FWF Online, which was really fun at the time, and I sort of became the creative director for that as my first job back. And for anybody who remembers that first set, which was Futera World Football Series 1, Online Series 1, there was a card in there which was the Legends cards. And I loved that card. That's still to this day. I'll tell you what my favorite is after this, but that's still to this day is my second favorite card that we ever did, which sort of had like a sort of roll in the center, like which showed miniature photos of the player, and then there was a big photograph on the sides. It was at the time the best card in the game as well, so a lot of people that would have played the game will remember that. And also just the checklist was great. It was the 50, my opinion, the 50 greatest players of all time, and so it was just exciting doing that. It was a nice job to come back to. And I really loved the design, and it also had a special effect on the card, which was made in I can't remember the exact way that these cards were made, but it was made using wax, and it basically allowed sort of like this 3D look to the cards, which was really beautiful. Like every single fold in the player's shirt you could see. It was just a really wonderful way of creating cards, and they sort of drifted out in like sort of the early 2010s and stuff like that. We haven't really seen them since, but those Legends cards were really nice. We did a series 2 as well of it, and that was sort of like to take it to the top 100 players in history. But yeah, it was a really, really nice card, and I still look at it to this day and think that was we got that one right. It's probably doesn't get enough airtime as it should. But yeah, that was a really good card.
It will now, because I feel like, I don't know whether it's from the first version or the second version, but I have some of them lying around. So I will share them on our Instagram page in the coming days, I think.
That's some good ones.
Okay.
That's my second favorite.
Right.
My
What's your first favorite then?
100% is a virtual card. Although I'm trying, my memory's not too great on this. I'm trying to do my research a little bit. Recently, I was trying to look to see if we ever actually printed them. But a virtual card coming out in 2011, which was the first ever set of Mythicals cards. And they were virtual and they were only made of 10. And we certainly have brought out mythical cards afterwards, and we've certainly brought out cards that are similar to them. But the reason why I loved this was because I love vintage football. I love football from the 1920s all the way up to the 1970s. And that's sort of my era of expertise. That's what I like to research. And this set, which we called the Mythicals, was about players that we've heard of, but we've never really seen. And the checklist was phenomenal. The look of the card looked like something that you'd sort of found in your attic after it had been in there for 100 years. It was messy. It was made to look that it was sort of messy and scratched. And I really loved it. And it was we did bring out a printed version, but with a different checklist later on. I'm just trying to find out if we ever brought one out with this checklist. But the players on the checklist were, I'm going to read them quickly off the sides. My favorite footballer in history, Paulino Alcantara. He was top goal scorer for Barcelona. But what was really interesting about him, he was actually an Asian player. He was from the Philippines. And sort of like Philippines haven't got this amazing history of football. But in the 1920s, they were probably the best team in the world for a while. And Paulino Alcantara, who also did play for Spain, was just scored for fun, basically, for Barcelona. I think, I've got to remember this, I might have my numbers wrong, but I think he played 356 games and scored 369 goals. And he still had the record up to the day that Messi sort of broke the record. And if you were in Barcelona's team's museum, you see the Alcantara game-worn shirt in there, which is sort of like the holy grail of game-worn shirts in my mind. Like there's a Garrincha one that I love. And I know we've talked about the Maradona 1986 shirt as well, but for me the Alcantara shirt is really important because in reality no one knows who he is anymore, and they should do, because he, up until sort of the media started hyping up everybody else, he was possibly the greatest player until Maradona came around. Lots of people will disagree with that, obviously, and to be fair, I've never watched 90 minutes of him. You can only look at the statistics, but he was impressive. Then you have Joseph Bican, you had John Charles, like the Welsh Wizards, great player. Leandro da Silva, I've got to get this right because there was two, Leandro da Silva and Jaume Santos. I can't remember which way round it is. I think it's Santos, actually. One of them invented the bicycle kick, which is a really like iconic moment in football.
Yeah.
So he invented that. I can't remember which one it is, but both of them are in the set. Jimmy McGrory, Joseph Nazazi. I think he was the guy that won the first World Cup with Uruguay, I think. I'm reading the names, but I'm not reading the history on this. Patrick Ace. Now, somebody has to get this one right. Not so long ago, he was a South African footballer who there was sort of like this legend to him that he was better than Pele. That's what the South Africans used to say, it was better than Pele. And people used to go to games to go and watch him play. And there was only a certain number of teams in South Africa at the time. And you'd find that he'd change teams each week because the amount of fans that would go to watch him, that each team would want him playing for them because he was so good. I think in the end, he went to America. He didn't quite shine as much as everybody expected him to. But his legend in South Africa is that he was just this great player that was better than Pele. And the final one, again, one of the greatest stories in history, is Bert Troutman. Bert Troutman, Manchester City goalkeeper, broke his neck in the cup final, carried on playing. And I've got a Manchester City fan next to me. Did they win the cup final when Bert Troutman?
Yeah.
Pretty sure.
They did, didn't they?
Yeah, they did. They did.
1956 or something like that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they did, because they may have won the game maybe 3-1. The only reason why I think they did is because it's, again, side note, I released my own football beers a couple of years back, worked with a brewery in the UK to do this, and I had a Man City set, and we broken neck. Bit insensitive, maybe a little bit, but it was paying homage
that's the legend
that's
of
his
him,
legacy.
Correct.
And it was, there's that picture of him walking off with his teammates around him holding his neck, and I think they did go on to win it. That's the fable, that's what gives it the clout, really.
I think I just like football stories, and I like those. I like the stories, and that set was just the most fun to come up with a checklist. It was the most fun to research. It was, it was just a lovely set to be involved in, and I liked the design. And I really want to see if we did bring up. You remember that? This was 2011, so you were we're working together. Yeah,
we were working together, and I wasn't there for the release, but I remember us working together on the checklist, and I'm sure I do. Yeah, so that's interesting.
One little interesting part of that is that one of the cards, which I think was Jose Nazazi, the picture on the front of the card was not Jose Nazazi. The reason it was Stanley Matthews, a player that I should know. I should know exactly what Stanley Matthews looks like, and it was me that done it. It was my fault. I went and got the photo. I put it in, and no one ever noticed until an intern started at the company one day, and he sat down years later, and he was looking at them, and he turned around and said, "That's Stanley Matthews." At which point I went to argue the point, and then looked at the card and went, "No, that is Stanley Matthews." So yeah, there's an error card, a virtual error card that we made as well. But yeah, it's I think it's Nazazi is with Stanley Matthews on the front. But yeah, it was just a really fun set. That's why it's my favorite.
That's hilarious
card ever. But all good. I love all that stuff. So all good, mate.
Well,
go on, Ads.
Well, the connection's not great, Mark. So we'll wrap this. We'll wrap this. We'll wrap the podcast up here before we get cut out properly. But thanks to Steve for coming on to the show, and we've got some more great guests lined up in the next couple of weeks. So as always, remember to like, subscribe, share, comment if you've got anything you want to add. I'm sure you have in the comment section below on YouTube, and then also leave us a review on any of the podcast apps that you listen to this podcast. And I know there are some of you out there listening by the podcast apps because the data's telling me. So keep that up, and thanks again for listening to Soccer Cards and Chill. See you next time.